So we just arrived here, Forest Lake, Minnesota. Beautiful place. This is Forest Lake, and this trip's kind of a bittersweet one for us because we get to reunite with Sarah's family, but we're out here because her grandmother passed away about a month or two ago, and they're going to have a memorial service for her. She lived here, and she's a very sweet lady. She came out and stayed with us in Modesto for 3 months, and several years ago, and we never got to see her since, and she's since passed away. But we're here on this beautiful lake. We got an Airbnb, and I'm going to flip the camera around and show you where we're staying, but just a gorgeous place. Also wanted to say that while we're here in Minnesota, the Minneapolis area, we're going to do some history hunting as well. So in this video, I hope to tell you a little bit about Sarah's grandmother. She actually grew up in the Central Valley of California, and she ended up here in Minnesota. She was on her way for a singing career up in New York, I think, New York City, and she met a man and fell in love with him and married and started a family, and her ambitions were put on hold. But fortunately, I shot a lot of video of her when she was out our way in, I think, 2018 or 19. So this is our home, and we are going to be here for probably a full week. But it's got a picnic table and a deck on the back. As the family was gathering at this mortuary in Forest Lake to honor the memory of a dear family member who had passed, I reflected on the paradox of how life goes on with newer generations playing across the road. Sarah was able to visit with family members, including cousin Ben, who was an attorney in Minnesota. Some of Lillian's prized possessions were on display, which served as a reminder of how the things that we hold on to are passed on to others after we depart. I always have trouble wrapping my mind around the fact that a person who was loved and cherished can be reduced to ashes in an urn, never to be part of life on this earth again. Because Lillian loved playing bingo, she also asked for the gathering to include family members playing a game in her honor. The gathering was billed as the last fiesta, including Mexican food, which was her wish for a celebration of life. Playing bingo?
Playing bingo?
Bingo?
Playing bingo?
Bingo.
Go to Mayo!
Sarah's grandmother stayed with us in February and March 2019, and one of our outings was to the P. Wexford pub in Modesto. We also took her on a trip to Columbia State Historic Park. Of course, we had to hit the candy shop. Sarah and her grandmother are here in Columbia. They just bought a bunch of candy, and now they're overdosing on candy.
Dark chocolate. Sea salt caramel.
That's your favorite?
That's my favorite. Looks very good.
Now what did Grandma get?
It looks like some
nougat.
pecan walnut log or something.
It's a pecan log.
Is this going to be like your best candy ever in your 93 years?
Maybe.
Everything tastes so good.
I also took an opportunity to tell her about the house used by Gary Cooper for the filming of High Noon in the 1950s. Of course, she knew the scene.
I remember that.
And then he goes out of that gate and he goes walking up to the firehouse. So.
Yes. I'm enjoying myself in California other than I'm freezing to death.
During her 2-month stay with us, I decided to break out my camera and interview Lillian, and I'm glad I did, for I didn't get a chance to do this later. I would recommend doing this with your own family members before it's too late.
I was born in Carruthers, California, and Fresno is where I lived until I graduated from high school. We were poor, but I never felt poor. I knew that we didn't have a lot, but we always had 3 meals a day, and I felt very cared for. My father was an alcoholic. Friday night, when he got through work, it was to the bar. He would drink until he was drunk, and then he'd come home and he was abusive to my mother. It was really sad when I realized that my mother did have to leave my father, and I supported her all the way through it. I hated to see the family separated like that, but I could understand why we had to be. I graduated from Roosevelt High School in Fresno in 1943 and went in nurses training at Fresno County General Hospital. And I didn't complete my nursing. I was going to move to New York. And instead I moved to San Francisco, where I lived for a couple of years. And then I had roomed with a friend that was from Duluth, Minnesota. And when she left San Francisco to go back to Minnesota, she invited me to come with her. However, I didn't go with her at that time, but probably a year later I decided that as long as I was going to New York, I'd just go as far as Minnesota, work until I made enough money to buy a ticket to New York. I got to Duluth, Minnesota, and that's where I met my husband, Richard.
The most trouble you've ever been in?
When I was in high school, we skipped school one afternoon and we went to another high school where my girlfriend and I had a couple of guys that we were interested in. So we went over to the school and just kind of bummed around for the afternoon. Gloria and I were interested in a couple of guys from Edison.
Yep. Oh boy. Those were the days.
Fun days. I was late getting home to my foster parents' home. Then I lied. She must have suspected that I was lying. And so she told me, she says, "Are you telling me the truth?" And I said, "Yes." And I became very, very nervous at that point. She says, "If you ever lie to me and I catch you in a lie, I will never trust you again." And I have remembered that all of my life. And I can say today, I don't believe I have ever told another lie.
You were there when I was born, weren't you?
Yes, yeah. Yes, I remember when you were born. I was naturally working at the hospital you were born in, so I was very close by during the whole thing. And I remember sitting with you, or sitting with Judy, your mother, in the labor room, and at the time I was a smoker. And she said, "You have to go because you stink of smoke." So I could not sit with her until you were born. Well, I always caught them doing things, not just Sarah, but her sister Shannon. They were like little white tornadoes. They came into the house and within 10 minutes they knew everything that was in the drawer, in the cupboards. They didn't miss a thing. And I would encourage both of them to do their laundry, fold their laundry, and put it in the drawers and keep it nice. And I said, if you do that the next time I come out and you've kept everything up like I have it, I'll give you some money. I went back to Minnesota and probably was out there again that year. And the first thing I asked them, how's it going as far as keeping your clothes in order? And I think they both had worked really diligently trying to get things organized so it looked like they'd been doing it the whole time. They actually had not done any of what I wanted them to do, but they tried to make it look like they did.
What's the secret to living a long life?
Luck. I've always had a positive attitude, and I've always taken care of myself. I've always maintained a good diet, but I think just taking care of myself has helped me. And I didn't plan on it. I can say that I bore some hardships myself, and I think that is the one reason that I have such independence.
So I think you were telling me that you saw Frank Sinatra.
He was appearing at the Golden Gate Theater, and I decided that I was going to go see what was so wonderful about him. When he came on stage and started singing, it was just like he was singing to me. It was like he was looking directly at me and singing to me. I have never felt so ecstatic in all my life. The only thing that I hated was the girls sitting in the front rows.
Okay, so how old were you when you heard about Pearl Harbor being attacked? Were you a teenager?
I was 16. I can still hear the radio. We sat for hours listening to what was happening in Pearl Harbor, yes. And yes, I was devastated. Always knowing that I had wanted to be a nurse, that was the first thing I said was, I wish I could be a nurse and be over and help them out. And my graduating class, we had boys that would have graduated with us that had already been killed in the service. So it was a sad graduation.
On March 10th, 2024, Sarah and I were sitting in a movie theater when a text notified Sarah that her grandmother had passed away. Neither of us could contain the tears, but we decided to finish the movie. Lillian Bruno had lived a good long life at age 98. She lived like she danced, with a smile on her face and a zest for life. That's how she'd like us all to remember her.